Welcome to a small introduction to the Management by Statistics software. This is version 3, and so it's called, in short, MBS 3. First, let's take an overview of the main features. So we're looking at an already set up software. I signed in as the user Mark in the Management by Statistics program installed on my computer. And when I sign in, I can see here I have already several companies set up. I can set up as many companies as I want. In each company, I have entered a list of employees. I can enter as many employees as I want. Each employee can have one or many posts, of course. If I go to the list of posts, I'll see all the posts. And what you see here is already the hierarchy of this company, the juniors and the seniors. Finally, I created some statistics and assigned them to the correct post and the correct person. If you select any graph, you will see, for example, patient visits. You have the name of the company, the name of the statistic graph. You have who it is assigned to in terms of post and person. In this particular case, I also have already a condition write-up for this one. There's also a battle plan. So it's just to show you all that information can be accessed all at once. I can use the other settings to display statistics which are related. For example, if I want to see all the statistics assigned to a particular post, I can go to Posts. For example, the office manager has more than one statistic assigned here. I can make the graphs smaller, in which case it will display more or less graphs here in the middle. I can also go by person or employee name, in this case Barry Brown. If I went to employees and selected, for in this case, Jenna Smiles, you can see there is 4 statistics assigned to Jenna Smiles. You can of course create your own groups of statistics. If I go to statistics by groups, I'm not selecting based on any criteria. I create the groups you see here, and I have the possibility to manually select which ones go in there or not. So if we look at just one graph, in this case new patients, to enter values, I would do that here in the statistic entry panel, and there are 2 ways. Let's go to values by statistic, where I can select one statistic graph at a time. In this case, I want new patients. I can see in my calendar here the values are daily. Of course, you can move up and down in your list here. You want to scroll up and down to reach a different timeline. I can click on this date here, enter 3 new patients, click on Save, and you will see it appear in the graph. To delete it, I would just delete, click Save, and correct. You can of course use a tool like Excel or any spreadsheet to basically copy-paste information directly into here. I can just copy-paste the values. I'll copy the nodes as well. And just make sure I'm on the right statistic. New patients, then I can just paste them, save them, and it will populate my graph automatically. I can also export the values I have in a graph. For example, if I make a right click here on this one and export to Excel as a line graph. A more efficient way to enter your data is to use values by period. It's just a different way to enter the data. In here you select the period, so I'll look at all my daily statistics in this case. they're automatically grouped by post, and I can select, for example, today's date, and then I can enter in all the numbers. They're entered now already, but that way at the end of the week or at the end of the month or the day I can enter all of them all at once. There are different ways to sort the entry list. Right now you're looking at a list which is first sorted by post. I could uncheck that and have an alphabetical list. I can also use the groups I created. If you remember, I had a division 1, division 4 and so on group here. If I select, for example, my division 7 one, I will only see those specific statistics which are part of that group. So there's two more things you can do with groups. If I go to statistics by groups and I select, for example, my div 1 group, of course I can print the whole group. But if I make a right click on any graph, I have more options. I can print just one graph or print all of them. I can export one graph or all of them to a PDF file. I would see one page with the 4 graphs, which I can send, email, or print, obviously. Now I can also look at my group as a report. In this case, it's already been formatted a little bit, so I have some options here to change what kind of columns I want. In this case, I selected the statistic name, the employee, the title of that person's post. I took a look at the 2 last weeks. I can format this here, and I can see if the statistics are up or down, and when was the last time that a condition or a battle plan was written. And of course I can print this. Now, management by statistics is very flexible with the way you can display the data. For example, this statistic patient visits is a daily statistic. Values were entered here every day. If I hover with the mouse on one specific date, I will see just that date. Now this is a daily value. If I want to see the total of the week, I just select weekly, and then I have the total of the week. If I hover with the mouse on a specific week ending, I can see in blue here in that yellow box the total of the week, and below the breakdown. Where do these numbers come from? So I see the individual days. Of course I can go all the way if I want to monthly, and I can go to yearly. Now let's say this is a daily statistic, but I want to have an idea of the overview over the whole year. I can very simply change the display. So a year is 52 weeks, and I would like to see this on a weekly basis, so I can just change my daily to a weekly view. I can select, for example, from July 2019 to July 2018, because I won't have data after July this year, obviously. So all I need to do here is enter 52 weeks, and what I'll see now is the total for the whole year's activity on a weekly basis. I can play with those icons here to change the display type, in this case in landscape. That way we're able to see a bit better, and you can see here this goes from the first week of July 2019 all the way back to the first week of July 2018. I can very easily move my graph to the left or to the right, 1 week at a time in this case. Once you have a statistic graph with sufficient values entered, in this case I'm looking at patient visits, which is a daily statistic. It's entered daily here. With a click of a button, I can use the embedded function to show quotas. What this does is it shows me the accumulation of values over time so that I can set a quota value for a certain target to be reached. For example, it's daily, so I can set a weekly quota here, and what you see now here is the accumulated values for the week ending on June the 28th. So that week starts in my calendar on June the 24th. I have 31 values. Now let's say I had a target originally of reaching 100 visits for the week, I can very quickly on the graph just enter a value, save it, and I can see at any given time if I'm above or below that quota. I can add two other types of graphs. I'm just going to show them for illustrations. So in this case, on the same graph, you have on the left scale the actual values entered for every day. That's this slightly grayish line. The accumulated values are here in black. This is the quota that I set, and you can see here the previous cumulative line. After the quotas, let's see how to compare statistics. So there's a function here, statistic comparison, where I can overlay up to 4 existing graphs. So let's say, for example, I want to see in the same graph my cash graph and the statistic graph for bills. But in this case, you can see I have on the same graph cash and bills. This is done dynamically. I'm still in Management by Statistics. I just decided to overlay two graphs. I can slide one against the other in time by changing the timeline so that you can see one of the graphs moves compared to the other. So let's go quickly over the conditions and the battle plans wizards. So what happens is I'm signed in as admin, and in this case it will grant me the rights of Jenna Smiles. That's just the example I took. So I would go to my post only to see which statistics I have rights to write conditions and battle plans for. Once I can see it's for the front desk, there's a couple of wizards. I can go to actions, write a condition, formula, a battle plan, or a document that can be used as a report where I will be able to import existing statistic graphs and text from condition reports or battle plans. So for example, to write a new condition formula, I would select the wizard. So in here I can see I can select for one statistic only or for my whole post. I will select this statistic. If I click on next, then I'll be able, it will automatically be scaled, but you could change this if you wanted. So let's say I'm looking at this last week here, and there is a visual aid here to help you select the correct condition. So clearly that's not the case. So let's say I'm in action effluence, which looks a lot more like it. Once I'm satisfied with the choice of my condition and I click on next, I will have all the steps of the formula automatically. So as an example, I would say this is for patients scheduled. I need to start with making appointments and so on. I do not pretend to write a whole condition right up. I'm just going to enter some text just so you can see when you click on next there is a whole report here with the graph and below the information I entered. This is a report that will be saved, but I can print it. I can save it as a PDF file and email it, for example. Once I click finish, that report will be available in the list of my conditions. And I can edit it here. Again, I can print it or delete it. Let's say I want to write a weekly battle plan for this post. I would go to next. The list of all the condition write-ups I have made will be here. So let's say I take this one and I'll be able to copy this formula. When I'm done, click on next. I will have a battle plan, which right now doesn't look like much. In the future I can come back and edit it, and let's say I have carried out those two actions on my battle plans. If I come to edit it, I will now see done. Let's go to administration where you set up things. It works the same way. I selected Maintain Statistics to work on statistic graphs. I select the company Healthy Smiles, and I have an overview of all my statistics. If you can read this, you will see most of them are standard. In this version, all you need to do is click on Deactivate, and the corresponding statistic will not be active anymore, meaning if I go to Dashboard, I won't see new patients anymore because it's archived. But besides standards, I can use existing standard statistics, meaning statistics for which I enter values, to create three other types of statistics. A sum by category is going to add up values. You will notice that this particular statistic, when you hover over with the mouse at any given data point, will show you the breakdown. The total on this week or this day comes from both collections doctor, collections assistant, and you can see how each one contributed. And I can now see a graph. This one will automatically update when I enter values in my standard bills or cash graphs. This particular comparison graph will automatically be updated. Now let's take a quick look at the built-in and free-to-use cloud features. Let's say you want to access your statistics when you're in another location or you're traveling. There's a free built-in function that lets you do that. You click on the little globe here to activate it. You control what goes online and what not. And I'm just going to activate my account. So let's open a browser. You can do this, of course, from any device with internet access, whether it's a Mac or a tablet or a smartphone or another computer. Let's go to our website. On the home page, you'll see a link here. And all you need to do basically is sign in with the username, which is the email in this case, and the password for the account. I'll click on sign in. And now we're online. So what happens here is it looks a bit like dashboard. You see here, if I click all statistics, I will see all the statistics one by one. If I wanted to see all the one for the front desk, I could go to posts. Remember, I didn't upload everything, so I would have to go to front desk to see something. I can here again change the size of my graphs. If I want to enter values for one particular statistic, I can just click on the system icon here. I can enter values. So to do that, I would scroll up to the latest one. Let's say here I have 5. I'll click on save. Of course, it will appear on the graph. If you hover on the graph again, I'm in a weekly view here, so it will show me the total just like the Windows version and the breakdown below. I can change the scale. These are my graphs, so I can also access the condition and the battle plan. I can go to groups, I can go to all employees, I can compare statistics. Most of the user functions are still available online, and this is completely free to use. Everybody is seeing the same thing because the information online and in the actual database on the computer are synchronized automatically. You can also invite somebody. In this case, I invited a consultant just by typing the email address in this field. The person will receive an email from the cloud server, which will invite him to automatically set up a password. Once that's done, that person can view all the statistics online, and there is no cost to this. Finally, in user settings, there are some languages changes. You can use Russian and Spanish right now. If you select Spanish, then of course all the information you see will be viewed except the names of the statistics and the names of the persons. The rest will be automatically translated. Going back to the actual program where you control the cloud, imagine you need to add a new company. Now I also want this information to be available online. That's all I need to do. The program will automatically update all the information for me on the cloud. The management by statistics software is based and uses references from L. Ron Hubbard, and those are available in the software as well as online for the most part. If you go to help and support, so there will be quite a lot about how to use the software besides the videos and the technical support we provide. But in theory of statistics here, you'll focus on the references used. Now if I expand this, you'll see there's an introduction part, basics, the condition formulas, how are they, how to apply them, and application of the conditions in order to manage by statistics. So if I expand the basics, you can see here those are all the basic references used. I'll show some of them so that you have an idea of what they entail. For example, some are very simple. What are statistics? Some are explanatory. What are the conditions? Now, how do you read statistics? How do you read statistic trends? How do you determine a statistic trend, obviously? Conditions and production globally, but also what are valuable final products, and how do you compile a subproduct list. The third part will be about the condition formulas themselves. If you expand this, I'll just go to, for example, affluence. You will have an explanation and an example, and this will be for all the different formulas you can have. How do you apply the conditions? Basically creating battle plans, and how do you in the end manage by statistics. Those are also available online if you're signed in on the cloud application, but there's also a whole section on the references here. They will be the same ones, but all the same explanations and references are available online once you're signed in.